Okay, in this video we're going to look at some practical examples for changing out color with the color guide, and then before we do that, let's look at let's say you came up with a color palette here that you really liked. In the last video we talked about how to save them locally, but if you want to save your swatches panel for future use, that's very easy to do. So I saved this in here, and let me just review real quickly how you do that. You just go from the color guide, click here, make sure you're using the base colors here, then you would just give this a name, type your name in here, type the plus sign, and it'll add it to it. So then inside of the swatches panel, there's that new color group that you made, and if we want to save this swatches selection out for future use, very easy to do. And this is not only for colors that you add in this method, but any old way that you come up with a color, you can add that to your swatches. Just simply click on the color that you created with the swatches panel open and just drag it over there, and that becomes another color in there. It just landed right there. So here's what you do. You just come down here, you follow this down to the last option, save swatches library as, I can't even read the end of it, but go with where it tells you to go. Just give it some name where you'll be able to remember where it is, or I mean what it does. I'm just going to call this test 2. I'm going to save. Then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to create a new document. So this could be any number of days from now. I create a new document. I say, oh, I really like that test number 2. So notice it's not in here. It would stay in the other document once it's saved, but this is a brand new document. It's just going to have the default swatches in here, or whatever you set up as your preference. But I can go to this same menu again, go to the same, down to the options here. Now I'm going to go down to Open Swatch Library, and I'm going to follow this over. Sorry about the fact that this is off screen, but Open Swatch Library, follow it over to the right, and then User Defined, and then you'll see your choice. Actually, let me just do this, make this a little bit more friendly for you. Okay, so this drop-down menu, Open Swatch Library, User Defined, and then I have test 1 and test 2 here, so I'm going to pick test 2. Now it opens up a whole new swatch, but an easy thing to do is just double click on what you like here. So I'm going to double click there to bring that in. If I want to bring that other color that I added last time, just drag that over here. I have that in there now. And then I can just close this up, and now when I save this document, it will be there for me to use next time, or I mean anytime. Okay, so let's go back to, I was talking about some practical examples here. Close this one up. Let's say that you created artwork by any means, like you did not use this guide, but you still want to get some variations that are related to it. Well, then let's leave the original. Just select them, go to the color guide, open it up, click on this box here, which is edit or apply colors, or again you can just click up here. When you do that, you have to remember that very often you have to click here to bring it back to its original colors, and then go to edit, lock to lock here, and we can just shift everything. Say if we just want to see what it looks like with everything shifted a little bit this way, we can do it. Let's make it a little bit more so we can see the difference in there. Okay. So now we have a new variation of that artwork. No matter how we, if we just got lucky and came up with a decent color palette or whatever the reason or the method, we can go back in here again. Let's say we just want to make it a little bit sorry, back up here a step. Okay, select this. Click on this. And if we just want to darken things up a little bit, go back into edit, make sure this lock is checked, and then we can slide in this direction. So you can see I could fill this whole thing this artboard with tons of different variations, which can be good just to satisfy your curiosity to make sure you pick the best colors, or in your clients, just be careful not to overwhelm your client with too many choices. Um, Now switching to a different color palette can be a little bit risky here. Um, One thing that can help is if you remember kind of like what you based your colors off of. So if it was, like say this green was where you started, and you select on the green to make that the active color, this might give you a better look at this. But just keep in mind that the best the computer can do in this case is make some guesses basically and say, okay, the tones that are a certain color should be shifted this way. So it's not really the best for that, although that's not too awfully bad. Let's pick one that has actually a little bit more problems. Okay, so if you like that, go in and just use the palette options over here and clean this up. So it just looks like for whatever reason it had a hard time figuring out that this should have been lighter in color. But if I click over here and just start going to a lighter version of that, maybe that's there. I think that's all it took was to fix that one. So not the smartest way to work. I would suggest you just start working from a color harmony to start with, but it just shows you how powerful this thing is. So if you're working with a logo, what I would do is just make a bunch of variations on that logo, different color harmony. So let's just create one real quick, and I'll pause this every now and then to speed things up, but in case you're not familiar with the eraser tool, this is pretty powerful to help you along the way. So I'm just going to break this into a couple different shapes here for colors. Okay, and then we'll add some text here. And then let's just go in and pick a color harmony for this, but it's kind of goofy, but alright, I'll just get over it. Okay. So we just pick any random color here to become our base color. Go in here and let's just start experimenting with the color harmony for our logo. Obviously you base your colors off of the emotional response that you're after, but let's just start with the left complement, go into edit, we'll say, yeah, alright, let's give that a try. Okay, and then we'll just start building the colors that we want for this logo. And then you've seen all the ways that you can edit this real quickly. So we could do that, make several different variations of this logo. And then we could take one and say, okay, rather than let the computer try to pick, make the changes for me, we just pick another color harmony and do this up. So let me pause it so I have a few here to work. Okay, so I made several variations. Now I can select this one, go in, just turn the color wheel a little bit, do the same for this one. Okay, so I have three variations there just by spinning the color wheel or pulling the things out a little bit, but the same palette. Then here I went and I changed it to complementary, but I realized there's going to be a typographic issue here where that's going to be too hard to read. But since it creates this palette out here for me, all I have to do is go back in here and change the look of this. So probably go with a much darker version of this color. Maybe make this the same color to match, give it a little more visual unity to it. And I can always go in and mish and mash these a little bit, but you get the idea. And so while we're on that, we can go out and make a couple different versions of these, and look at how drastically different these are. So I could have probably made a whole page just sticking with that one color profile. And what makes sense here to give me a starting point now, since I went in and actually changed those colors, would be, of course, to just copy this over. So all I'm doing is holding down the Option key while I drag this out. And then after I get my copy, I will Command D to duplicate that. then I'll go and make a couple variations of that. So I think you get the point here. Um, Now the next thing is if you have a client that needs this logo to look the exact same no matter how it's printed, then you're probably going to have to use Pantone colors to make the logo. So that's very easy inside of here. And let's just take this one that has a little bit more color variation to it. So let's say that we needed a version of this to work Pantone. So that you'd probably talk over with your client ahead of time. Usually the big dollar clients want their logos to look very much the same every time and are willing to spend the money to make it a Pantone job. Sometimes if it's just, say, if we could get it down to two colors that work here, that could be fine. And then it would actually cost less if we were going to press with just two colors as opposed to a regular four color process. So let's look at how that works. We are going to once again copy all this. We're going to open this up to go in here, click on here to make sure that we're working with the original colors that we started with. And then what we're going to do is under the preset right here, we're going to change this to, and let's see how good we can do with just a two color job. Now you saw that you had a choice of 1 and 3 color in there as well. Then you have to choose a library. So I'm going to go to Pantone Solid Coated. You might go Solid Matte depending on the job. Click OK, and it is showing you the best colors it could find to do this job. If you're happy with that, that could be fine, but let's see what if we can do better with the three color job here. I mean, of course we can do better. Now this is a little bit of a problem with this, is that every time we have to go back and we have to pick Pantone Solid Coated again. And here it is adding that third color. Oops. I guess I thought maybe it made a little mistake there, but okay, third color, Pantone, solid coated, okay. So that's the best job it does there, and let's say we like that, then all we have to do is double click in here to see the color that it picks. And if we know, for example, that our printer has a lot of this and is willing to give us a deal, then maybe we would show it to the client with this option instead. When we click that, it's going to apply that color, change it up a little bit. Double click on this one, write down Pantone 8021 C for coated, and same thing here. Another thing you should be aware of when you're working with the Pantone colors is if your job has blacks in it and you're just going to use regular black, you would want to check this option right here. Okay, go to this box here, and in the method you would say preserve the blacks. So if there were blacks in there and you just wanted them to stay that way, in other words, not be mixtures of other Pantone colors to try to achieve black, so that again you'd have to talk over with the client, figure out how many colors were available to work with this job. What else? I think there's like two other things that I wanted to show you. Now this is showing up this way because we have it limited to Pantone colors, which that's kind of weird to try to pick your colors that way. So let's just go to another one here. Okay, so let's say that you're editing and let me get this out of, there we go. And you are working with the color palette. Let me go with one that has some more wings on it here, like a triad. And let's say you really you like the idea of these two colors, but not this one. You can actually remove a handle here. So right next to the lock that we've used before, the link, you can click on this minus and get rid of a color. So that still will have some harmony to it. You're just missing the accent over here. I don't know, there'd be a real good reason to do that. And then you can also just randomly add one somewhere, but now you're just kind of taking a shot in the dark at color. So I really don't recommend that kind of thing. But if there's a color in there that's just absolutely bothering you and you feel like you're good enough to make that decision, you can hit the unlock or the unlink button and move whatever one you're clicking on to wherever you want. And then if you link it back up, once you really like that, for example, then you can spin this around and things will